don't do anything before a show. Ever. Because that could ruin the whole show. Yeah.
Oh, God, you can do it like this.
Can I? What am I going to tell this?
From your mom and your mom's going to tell the parents? I don't know, you seem to think.
Okay, hi everyone, thank you so much for coming. I'd just like to say how amazing it is to finally perform this. It's been a very long time since we started the show last year. And I'm very happy, and everyone's very happy how it turned out. So, I'd first like to begin by thanking our teacher, Miss Allison, who has helped us in many ways as she can by buying props, supporting us in our directorial decisions, and just being there mentally as a support guide. Miss Allison has done so much for us all, and the drama class who performed their ensembles yesterday. And this is all done, but while directing the musical of The Little Mermaid. Please get your tickets because it is selling out very fast. She is truly amazing, and we could not have done this without her. I would also like to thank all the parents in the room for driving their child to our Saturday rehearsals, and especially Alannah's mum, Naomi, who made Cecily's dress and who bought props and accessories. We are all very grateful. I would also like to thank my parents who supported me through this roller coaster and buying all the lovely food you will see tonight. I would also like to thank all my classmates for putting in their effort in creating this show. They have all spent many hours, I hope, learning lines, remembering blocking, and listening to us directors in our creative headspaces. You are all very amazing and deserve more things than I can count. This show would not have been possible without Dave, Ollie, who's up there controlling the sound and lighting, and the tech guys. So I thank them very much for helping us and for their time and patience working with us. I'd also like to give Tommy a huge thank you for stepping into the role of Lady Bracknell only 2 weeks ago. He is truly amazing. The directors of this show include Ryan, Sammy, and I. We have worked very hard into producing this amazing show. Now, welcome to the importance of being earnest.
Did you hear what I was playing, Lane?
I didn't think it was polite to listen, sir.
I do apologise for that, for your sake. I don't play accurately. Anyone can play accurately, but I play with wonderful expression. As far as the piano is concerned, sentiment is my forte. I leave science for life.
Yes, sir.
And as for the science for life, have you got the cucumber sandwiches cut for Lady Bracknell?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Lane.
Yes, sir.
And I've seen from your books that on Thursday night, when Lord Shorman and Mr. Worthing were dining with me, that 8 bottles of champagne at entrance hadn't been consumed.
Yes, sir. 8 bottles and a pint.
Why is it that at a bachelor's establishment, the servants invariably drink the champagne? I ask merely for information.
I attribute to the superior quality of the wine, sir. In marriage households I've seen, wine is never really a first-rate brand.
Good heavens, is marriage so demoralizing as that?
It's a very pleasant state, sir. A very pleasant state, sir.
Were you married, Lane?
Only once. A very interesting subject, but I won't go into it.
I actually do not really care about your family life, Lane.
No, it's not a very interesting subject. I rarely think of it myself.
Very natural, I am sure. That will be all, then.
Thank you, sir.
Lane's views on marriage seem somewhat lax. Really, if the lower orders do not set a good example for us, what on earth is the use of them?
Mr. Ernest Worthing.
How are you, my dear Ernest? What brings you up to town?
Oh, pleasure, pleasure. What else should bring one anywhere? Eating as usual, I see, Algie?
I believe it is customary in good society to partake in slight refreshment at 5 o'clock. Where have you been since last Thursday?
Oh, in the country.
What on earth do you do there?
Well, when one is in town, one amuses oneself. When one is in the country, one amuses other people. It is excessively boring.
And who are the people you amuse?
Oh, neighbours.
Got nice neighbours in your part of Shropshire?
Perfectly horrid. Never speak to one of them.
Well, how immensely you must amuse them then. Shropshire is your county, is it not?
Eh? Shropshire? Yes. Hello. Why all these cups? Why cucumber sandwiches? Why such reckless extravagance in one so young? Who is coming to tea?
Oh, me, Aunt Augusta and Gwendolen.
How perfectly delightful.
Yes, that's all good and well, but I can't say that Aunt Augusta will quite approve of your being here.
May I ask why?
My good fellow, the way that you flirt with Gwendolen is perfectly horrid. It's nearly as bad as the way that Gwendolen flirts with you.
I wish to be engaged to Gwendolen. I've come up to town expressly to propose to her.
I thought you said you came up for pleasure. I call that business.
How utterly unromantic.
I really don't see anything romantic in proposing. It's very romantic to be in love, but there's nothing romantic about a definite proposal. Why? One must be accepted. One usually is, I believe, but then the excitement is all over. The very essence of romance is uncertainty. If I ever get married, I will certainly try and forget the fact.
But I have no doubt about that. You see, the divorce courts were specially invented for those whose memories are so curiously constituted.
There's no use speculating on that subject. Divorces are made in heaven. Ah, you better not be after those cucumber sandwiches. I ordered them specially for Aunt Augusta. Why don't you have some of the bread and butter? The bread and butter is for Gwendolen. She's very devoted to bread and butter.
Why could bread and butter be?
Well, you didn't eat it as if you were going to eat it all. You act as if you were married to her already. You are not married to her already, and I really don't think you ever will be.
Oh, why on earth do you say that?
My good fellow, women never marry the men they flirt with. Women don't think it right.
That is absurd.
It is not, to counter the extraordinary number of bachelors that one sees all over the place. In second place, I don't give my consent.
Your consent?
My dear fellow, Gwendolen is my first cousin. And before I allow you to, go ahead and marry her, you're going to have to clear something up for me. You're going to have to clear up the whole question of Cecily.
Algernon.
Blake,
Algernon, I do not know anyone but
Blake.
I don't know anyone called Cecily.
Will you please bring me the cigarette case that Mr. Worthing left behind last time he dined here?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Lane.
Do you mean to say you have had my cigarette case this whole time? I wish to goodness you had let me know. I had been writing frantic letters to Scotland Yard and was very nearly offering a large reward.
Well, I really wish you would have offered one. I happen to be more than usually hard up.
Well, there is no good offering one now that the thing is found.
No, but now that I look at the inscription inside, it's actually not yours.
Of course it is mine. You have seen me with it 100 times, and you have no right whatsoever to read what is written inside. That's very ungentlemanly of you.
Oh, it is absurd to have a hard and fast rule about what one shouldn't read. More than half of modern culture depends on what one shouldn't read.
Yes, well, I don't propose to discuss modern culture. It isn't the sort of thing one talks of in private. I just want my cigarette case back.
Yes, but this is not your cigarette case. This was given as a present from someone of the name of Cecily, and you said you didn't know anyone of that name.
Well, if you want to know, Cecily happens to be my aunt.
Your aunt?
Yes, my aunt. Charming old lady, lives at Tunbridge Wells. Oh, for heaven's sake, give it back.
Well, if she is your aunt, why does she call herself Little Cecily? Oh, sorry, I dropped your card out there. I'll keep that. I'll tell you why later. But why does she call herself Little Cecily if she is your aunt and lives at Tunbridge Wells? From Little Cecily with her fondest love.
Some aunts are tall, some aunts are not tall. That is a matter surely the aunt should be allowed to decide for herself. You think that every aunt should be exactly like your aunt. That is absurd. Oh, give it back.
Yes, there is no objection, I admit, to an aunt being a small aunt, but an aunt, no matter what her size may be, I don't see why she would call her own nephew her uncle. From Little Cecily with her fondest love to her dear Uncle Jack. Besides, your name is not Jack at all. It is Ernest Worthing.
It isn't Ernest. It's Jack.
But you have always told me it was Ernest. You answer to the name of Ernest. I introduce you as Ernest. You look as if your name was Ernest. You're the most earnest-looking person I've ever seen in my life. It says so on your card, which conveniently fell out before. Ernest Worthing, B4, the Albany. I will be keeping this in case you ever try to deny to me, to Gwendolen, or to anyone that your name is not Ernest Worthing.
Well, my name is Ernest in town and Jack in the country, and that was given to me in the country.
Yes, but that does not account for the fact that your small aunt Cecily, who lives at Tunbridge Wells, calls you her dear uncle. Come, old boy, you best have the whole thing out at once.
How do you be talking as though you are a dentist? It is very vulgar to talk as though one is a dentist when one isn't a dentist. It produces a false impression.
Yes, and that is exactly what dentists always do. Now go on, tell me the whole thing. I may admit I've always suspected you of being a confirmed and secret Bunburyist, and I am quite sure of it now.
Bunburyist? I don't know this. What on earth do you mean by Bunburyist?
I will reveal to you the meaning of that incomparable expression as soon as you reveal to me why you are Ernest in town and Jack in the country.
But produce my cigarette case first.
Here it is. Now produce your explanation, and pray make it improbable.
My dear fellow, there is nothing improbable about my explanation. You see, old Mr. Thomas Cardew, who adopted me when I was a very young boy, made me in his will guardian to his granddaughter, Miss Cecily Cardew. Cecily, who addresses me as uncle out of motives of respect which you could not possibly understand, lived at my house in the country under the charge of her admirable governess, Miss Prism.
Where is that place in the country, by the way?
It is nothing to you. You are not going to be invited. I may tell you, though, it's not in Shropshire.
I suspected that, my dear fellow. I have Bunburyed all over Shropshire on 2 separate occasions. Now go on. Why are you Ernest in town and Jack in the country?
My dear, I do not think you will be able to understand my real motives, for you are hardly serious enough. When one is a guardian, one has to adopt a very high moral tone, and as a high moral tone cannot be said to induce very much to one's health or one's happiness. I have always pretended to have a younger brother called Ernest, who lives in town, and gets into the most dreadful scrapes. And that, my dear Algie, is the whole truth, pure and simple.
Oh, the truth is rarely pure and never simple. Modern life would be very tedious if it were either, and modern literature a complete impossibility.
That wouldn't at all be a bad thing.
Literary criticism is not your forte, my dear fellow. Don't try it. Leave it to people who have never been at a university. They do it so well in the daily papers. What you really are is a Bunburyist. I was quite right in saying you're a Bunburyist. You are one of the most advanced Bunburyists I know.
I am not a Bunburyist. In fact, I've decided that if Gwendolen accepts me, I'm going to kill my brother. In fact, I think I shall kill him anyway. Cecily has gotten a little too much interested in him. It is rather a bore.
I thought you were going to ask me what a Bunburyist is. I'm very excited to tell you.
Well, then go on, if you're so excited, go tell me. What is a Bunburyist? What on earth do you mean?
You have invented a very useful younger brother so as you can travel down to town so often as you like. I have invented a very invaluable invalid called Bunbury so as I can travel down to the country so often as I choose. Bunbury is perfectly invaluable. If it wasn't for Bunbury's extraordinarily bad health, for instance, I wouldn't be able to dine with you tonight at Willis's because really I had been engaged to Aunt Augusta for more than a week.
I haven't asked you to dine anywhere with me tonight.
I know, you were so careless about sending out invitations. It is so shallow of you.
I think you had much better dine with your Aunt Augusta.
I have no intention of doing anything of the kind. In the first place, I dined there on Monday, and once a week is enough to dine with one's own relations. In the second place, when I do dine there, I am always treated as a member of the family and sent down with either no woman at all or two. In the third place, I know perfectly well who she will place me next to tonight. She will place me next to Mary Barquire, who always flirts with her own husband across the dinner table. It is not pleasant. In fact, it is not even decent. And that kind of thing is enormously on the increase. The amount of women in London who flirt with their own husbands is perfectly horrid. It looks so bad. It's like washing one's own clean linen in public. Besides, like I said, now that I know you're a Bunburyist, I want to talk to you about it. I want to tell you the rules.
I am not a Bunburyist. In fact, as I said earlier, if Gwendolen accepts me, I think I'm going to kill my brother. In fact, you know, I think I am going to kill him anyway because Cecily's a little too much interested in him. It is rather a bore. So, yes, I'm going to kill him, and I suggest you do the same with your the invalid friend with the absurd name.
Nothing will induce me to part with Bunbury, and if you ever get married to Gwendolen, which I think is extremely problematic, you will be very glad to know Bunbury. A man who marries without knowing Bunbury has a very tedious time of it.
If I marry a charming girl like Gwendolen, and she's the only girl I ever saw in my life that I cared for, I certainly won't want to know Bunbury.
Well, then your wife will. You don't seem to realise that in married life, 3 is company and 2 is none.
My dear friend, that's the theory that the corrupt French drama has been propounding for the last 50 years.
And the happy English home has proved it half the time.
Oh, don't try to be cynical. It's perfectly easy to be cynical.
It is not easy to be anything nowadays. There is so much beastly competition about.
Yeah.
Oh, that must be Aunt Augusta. Only relatives or creditors ever ring that Wagnerian manner. Now, okay, if I get her out of the way for 10 minutes, so as you can have an opportunity of proposing to Gwendolen, will you please dine with me tonight at Willis's? I don't see no far.
Right, I suppose so if you want to.
But you must be serious about it. I hate people who are not serious about meals.
Oh, right, yes.
Lady Bracknell and Miss Fairfax.
Good afternoon, dear Algernon. I hope you have been behaving well.
I am feeling very well, Aunt Augusta.
That is not quite the same thing. In fact, the two things rarely go together.
You are smart, Gwendolen.
I am always smart. Am I not, Mr. Worthing?
You are quite perfect, Miss Fairfax.
Oh, I hope I am not that. It would leave no room for developments, and I intend to develop in many directions.
I'm sorry if we are late, Algernon, but I was boy, help me. All right, fuck off. I was obliged to call by Lady Harbury. I hadn't been there since her poor husband's death. I never saw a woman so altered. She looks quite 20 years younger. And now I'll have a cup of tea and one of those cucumber sandwiches you promised.
Of course, Aunt Augusta.
Won't you come sit here, Gwendolen?
I'm quite comfortable where I am.
Lane?
Yes, sir. there no cucumbers in the market this morning, sir?
No cucumbers.
I went down twice, not even for ready money.
That'll be all in. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
I'm very distressed, Aunt Augusta, to hear that there were no cucumbers at the market this morning, not even for any ready money.
It really makes no matter, Algernon. I had some crumpets with Lady Harbury, who seems to be living entirely for pleasure.
Yes, I hear her hair has turned quite gold from grief.
It certainly has changed colour. Oh, thank you.
That's okay.
From what cause, I of course cannot say. I've quite a treat for you tonight, Algernon. I am going to send you down to Miss Farquhar. She is such a nice woman and so attentive to her husband.
Yeah.
It's delightful to watch.
I agree. But I am afraid that I will have to give up the pleasure of dining with you tonight after all.
I hope not, Algernon. Yeah, thank you. It would put my table completely out. Your uncle would have to dine upstairs.
Oh.
Fortunately, he is accustomed to that.
It is a great bore, and I need hardly to say a terrible disappointment to me, Aunt Augusta. But the truth is, I have just had a telegram from Mr. Bunbury to say that he is very ill, and they seem to think I should be with him.
It is very strange. This Mr. Bunbury seems to suffer from curiously bad health.
Yes, Mr. Bunbury is a dreadful invalid.
Well, I must say, Algernon, that I think it is time that Mr. Bunbury made up his mind whether he is going to live or die. This shilly-shallying with the question is absurd, nor do I in any way approve of the modern sympathy with invalids. Illness of any kind is hardly a thing to be encouraged in others. Health is the primary duty of life. I am always telling that to your poor uncle, but he never seems to make much notice. I should be much obliged if you would ask Mr. Bunbury from me to be kind enough not to have a relapse on Saturday. I rely on you to arrange the music for me.
Yes, I will speak to Bunbury, Aunt Augusta, if he is still conscious, and I think I can promise that he will be all right by Saturday. As far as the music is concerned, it is a great difficulty because if you play good music, people don't listen, and if you play bad music, people don't talk. But I will show you the program I've drawn out. If you will kindly accompany me into the next room for a moment.
Thank you. Thank you, Algernon. It is very thoughtful of you. I'm sure the program will be delightful. A few explorations, you know. French songs I cannot possibly allow. People always seem to think that they are improper and either look shocked, which is vulgar, or laugh, which is worse. But German sounds are thoroughly respectable language, and indeed, I believe is so. Gwendolen, will you accompany me?
Certainly, Mama.
Charming day it has been, Miss Fairfax.
Oh, pray don't talk to me about the weather. Whenever people talk to me about the weather, I always feel quite certain that they mean something else. And that makes me so nervous.
But I do mean something else.
I thought so. In fact, I am never wrong.
And I would like to be allowed to take advantage of Miss Lady Bracknell's temporary absence.
I would certainly advise you do so. Mama has a way of coming back suddenly into a room that I have often had to speak to her about.
Gwendolen, ever since I have met you, I have loved you more than any girl I have ever met since I met you. Oh.
Yes, I am quite well aware of the fact, and I often wish in public that at any rate you had been more demonstrative. We live, as I hope you know, Mr. Worthing, in an age of ideals. The fact is constantly mentioned in more monthly magazines, and my ideal has always been to love someone of the name of Ernest. There is something in that name that inspires absolute confidence. The moment Algernon first mentioned me that he had a friend called Ernest, I knew I was destined to love him.
You really love me, Gwendolen.
Passionately.
Darling, you don't know how happy you've made me.
My own Ernest.
But you don't really mean to say you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Ernest.
But your name is Ernest.
Yes, I know it is. I know it is. But perhaps it was something else. Could you not love me then?
That is clearly a metaphysical speculation. And like most metaphysical speculations, there's very little reference to the actual facts of real life as we know them.
Personally, darling, I don't quite care for the name of Ernest. I don't think it suits me at all.
It suits you perfectly. It is a divine name. It has a music of its own. It produces vibrations.
I think that there are a lot of other, much nicer names, like Jack. I think Jack is a charming name.
Jack? No. There's very little music in the name Jack, if any at all indeed. It doesn't thrill. It produces absolutely no vibrations. I have known several Jacks, and they were more than usually plain. Besides, Jack is a notorious domesticity for John.
Oh.
And I pity any woman who is married to a man called John. She would never be allowed to know the entrancing pleasure of a single moment's solitude. The only really safe name is Ernest.
Gwendolen, I must get christened at once. I mean, we must get married. Married at once.
Married, Mr. Worthing.
Well, yes, you know that I love you, and you have led me to believe that you're not entirely indifferent to me.
I adore you, but you haven't proposed to me yet. Nothing's been said at all about marriage. The subject hasn't even been touched on.
Well, may I propose to you now?
I think it would be an admirable opportunity, and to spare you any possible disappointment, I think it is only fair to tell you quite frankly beforehand that I am fully determined to accept you.
Gwendolen.
Yes, Mr. Worthing, what have you got to say to me?
Well, you know what I have got to say to you.
Yes, but you don't say it.
Oh, right. Will you marry me, Gwendolen?
Of course I will. How long you have been about it.
Oh.
I'm afraid you've had very little experience in how to propose.
Well, you are the only girl I've ever cared for.
Yes, but men often propose for practice. I know my brother Gerald does. All his girlfriends tell me so. What wonderfully blue eyes you have, Ernest. They are quite blue. I hope you will always look at me just like that, especially when there are other people present.
Mr. Worthing, rise! From this semi-recumbent posture, it is most indecorous!
But Mama! I must beg you to retire. This is no place for you. Besides, Mr. Worthing is not quite finished yet.
Finished with what, may I ask?
I am engaged to Mr. Worthing, Mama.
Pardon me. You are not engaged to anyone. When you do become engaged to someone, I or your father should be help permit him will inform you of the fact. An engagement should come to a young girl as a surprise, pleasant or unpleasant. As the case may be, it is hardly a matter that she could be allowed to arrange for herself. And now, I have a few questions to put to you, Mr. Worthing. While I am making these inquiries, you, Gwendolen, will wait for me below in the carriage.
But Mama!
In the carriage, Gwendolen! Gwendolen in the carriage!
Mama!
You can take a seat, Mr. Worthing.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell. I prefer standing.
I feel bound to tell you that you are not down on my list of eligible young men. Although, I have the same list as the dear Duchess of Bolton has. We work together in a fact. However, I am quite ready to enter your name, should your answers be what a really affectionate mother requires. Do you smoke?
Yes, I must admit I do smoke.
I am glad to hear it. A man should always have an occupation of some kind. There are far too many idle men in London. How old are you?
29.
Very good age to be married. I have always been of opinion that a man who desires to get married should know either everything or nothing. What do you know?
I know nothing, Lady Bracknell.
I am pleased to hear it. I do not approve of anything that tampers with natural ignorance. Ignorance is like a delicate, exotic fruit. Touch it, and the bloom is gone. The whole theory of modern education is radically unsound. Fortunately, in England, at any rate, education produces no effect whatsoever. If it did, it would prove a serious danger to the upper classes and probably lead to acts of violence in Grosvenor Square. What is your income?
Between 7,000 and 8,000 a year.
In land or in investments?
In investments, chiefly.
That is satisfactory. What between the duties expected of one during one's lifetime and the duties exacted from from one's after one's death. Land has ceased to be either a profit or a pleasure. It gives one position and prevents one from keeping it up. That's all that can be said about land.
I have a country house, of course, with some land attached to it, about 1,500 acres. But I don't depend on that for my income, no. I think that the poachers are the only people who make any real profit off of it.
A country house? How many bedrooms? Well, that point can be cleared up afterwards. You have a townhouse, I hope? A girl with a simple, unspoiled nature like Gwendolen could hardly be expected to reside in the country.
I have a house in, what was it? Belgrave Square. But it is let by the year by a Lady Bloxham. But I can get it back whenever I want, at 6 months' notice.
Lady Bloxham?
Yes.
I don't know her.
Oh, she is a lady considerably advanced in years. She goes about very little.
Ah, nowadays that is no gratitude of respectability of character. What number in Belgrave Square?
149.
That is an unfactionary side.
Oh.
I thought that there was something. However, that could easily be altered.
The fashion or the side?
Both, if necessary.
Oh.
I presume, what are your politics?
I'm afraid I really have none. I'm a liberal unionist.
Oh, they count as Tories. They dine with us, or come in the evening, at any rate. Now, minor matters. Are your parents living?
I have lost both my parents.
To lose one parent, Mr. Worthing, may be regarded as a misfortune. To lose both looks like carelessness. Who was your father? He was evidently a man of some wealth. Was he born in what the radical papers call the purple of commerce? Or did he rise from the ranks like a aristocracy?
I say that I have lost both my parents, but it would be nearer to the truth to say my parents seem to have lost me. You see, I was found.
Found?
Yes, an old gentleman of very kind and charitable disposition found me. He gave me the name of Worthing because he happened to have a first-class ticket for Worthing in his pocket. Worthing is a seaside resort, in Sussex.
What did the charitable gentleman who had a first-class ticket for the seaside resort find you?
In a handbag.
What was that, dear?
In a handbag.
Just one more time.
In a handbag.
What? In a handbag?
A handbag. Or normal tan handbag with handles, Lady Bracknell, an ordinary handbag, in fact.
In what locality did this Mr. James or Thomas Cardew come across this ordinary handbag?
In the cloakroom of Victoria Station. It was given to him in mistake for his own.
In the cloakroom of Victoria Station?
Yes, the Brighton line.
The line is immaterial. Mr. Worthing, I confess I feel somewhat bewildered by what you have just told me. To be born, or at any rate, bred in a handbag, whether it had handles or not, seems to me to display a contempt for the ordinary decencies of family life that reminds one of the worst excesses of the French Revolution. And I presume you know what the unfortunate movement led to. As for the particular locality in which the handbag was found, a cloakroom at a railway station might serve to conceal a social indiscretion. But I could hardly be regarded as a assured basis for a recognized position in good society.
Well, then, what do you want me to do? I need not to say that I would do anything to ensure Gwendolen's happiness.
I would strongly advise you, Mr. Worthing, to try and acquire some relations as soon as possible, and to make a definite effort to produce at any rate one parent of either sex before the season is quite over.
Well, I don't quite see how I'm supposed to do that. I can produce the handbag at any moment. It is in my dressing room upstairs. I really think that should satisfy you, Lady Bracknell.
Me, sir? What has that got to do with me? You can hardly imagine that I and Lord Bracknell would dream of allowing our only daughter, a girl brought up with the utmost care, to marry into a cloakroom and form an alliance with a parcel? Good morning, Mr. Worthing.
Good morning. Oh. Oh, Algie! Do not play that idiotic tune, you... Oh!
Didn't it go off all right, old boy? You don't mean to say she refused you. I know it is a way that she has. Gwendolen is always refusing people.
Oh no, Gwendolen is right as a trivet. It is her mother. Never met such a gorgon. I don't really know what a gorgon is, but Lady Bracknell is one. In any case, she's a monster without being a myth, which is rather unfair. Oh, I'm sorry, Algie. I suppose I shouldn't talk about your aunt in this way before you.
Oh, that is quite all right. I love hearing my relations abused. It is the only way I can put up with them. Relations are merely a tedious pack of people without the smallest instinct about how to live or the remotest idea about when to die.
Oh, that is nonsense.
It isn't.
Well, I don't want to argue about it. You always want to argue about things.
That isn't actually what things were originally made for.
Oh, upon my word. Oh, you don't think there's any chance of Gwendolen becoming like her mother in about 150 years, is there?
Level with me. All women become like their mothers. That is their tragedy. No man does. That's his.
Is that clever?
It is perfectly phrased, and about as true as any sentiment in civilized life should be.
Oh, but I'm sick to death of cleverness. It has become an absolute public nuisance. You can't go anywhere now without meeting clever people. I wish to goodness we had a few fools left.
We do.
Really, I should extremely like to meet them. What do they talk about?
The fools? Oh, about the clever people, of course.
What fools?
Have you told Gwendolen yet your truth about being Ernest in town and Jack in the country?
Oh, one doesn't blurt these things out. What ideas you have about the way to behave to a woman?
The only way to behave to a woman is to make love to her if she is pretty, and to someone else if she is plain.
That is nonsense.
What about your brother? What about the profligate Ernest?
Oh, before the end of the week, I shall have got rid of him. I'll say he died in Paris of apoplexy. Lots of people die of apoplexy quite suddenly in Paris, don't they?
Yes, they do, but it's hereditary, my dear fellow. The sort of thing that runs in families. You had better say a severe chill.
And you're sure a severe chill is not hereditary, or anything of that kind?
Of course it isn't.
Right. So my poor brother Ernest was carried off suddenly in Paris by a severe chill. That gets rid of him.
What about Miss Cardew? Didn't you say that she was quite interested in your brother Ernest? Won't she feel he's lost a great deal?
Oh, Cecily is not a silly romantic girl, I am proud to say. She has a capital appetite, goes on long walks and pays no attention at all to her lessons.
I think I should rather like to see Cecily.
I shall take great care you never do. She's extremely pretty and only just 18.
Have you told Gwendolen yet that you have an excessively pretty ward who is only just 18?
One doesn't blurt these things out either. I am sure that within half an hour of meeting each other, Gwendolen and Cecily will be fast friends and will be calling each other sister.
My dear boy, women only do that when they've called each other a lot of other things first. Now, if you want to get a good table at Willis's tonight, we really should go and dress. You know it is nearly 7.
Oh, but it is always nearly 7.
Well, I'm hungry.
I never knew you when you weren't.
What shall we do after dinner? Shall we go to the theatre?
No, I loathe listening.
Shall we go to the club?
No, I hate talking.
Or we might trot around the Empire of 10.
No, I hate looking at things. It's so boring.
Well, what shall we do then?
Nothing.
But I hate doing nothing. It's such hard work doing nothing. I only like hard work when there's no definite object of any kind.
Right.
Miss Fairfax.
Oh.
Gwendolen, upon my word,
Algie, kindly take her back.
I don't think I can allow that at all.
Algie, you always adopt a strict and immoral attitude towards life. You are not quite old enough to do that.
Gwendolen.
Ernest,
Oh.
we may never be married. From the expression on Mama's face, I fear we never shall. Few parents pay any respect to what their children say to them. The vast respect for the youth is dying out. Whatever influence I had over Mama, I lost at the age of 3. But though she may prevent us from becoming man and wife, and though I may so marry someone else, and marry often, nothing will alter my eternal devotion to you.
I heard one.
Your story of your Christian name is relayed to me by Mama with unpleasing sentiments, as naturally stirred the deeper fibers of my nature. Your Christian name is just an insufferable fascination. Your address in the city I have. Where is your address in the country?
The Manor House, Wilton, Hertfordshire.
There is a good postal service, I suppose. It may be necessary to do something drastic. That will require serious consideration. I will communicate with you daily.
Dear Gwendolen.
Algie, you may kindly turn around now.
That's okay, I've turned around already.
You may also ring the bell.
You will let me see into your carriage, darling.
Certainly.
I will see Miss Fairfax out.
Yes, sir.
A glass of sherry, Lane?
Yes, sir.
Lane, tomorrow I think I will go Bunbury.
Bunbury? Yes, sir.
I shall not be back till Monday.
Monday? Yes, sir.
You can hang up my dress clothes, my smoking jacket, and all of the Bunbury suits.
Bunbury suits? Yes, sir.
I hope tomorrow will be a fine day, Lane.
It never is, sir.
Lane, you are a perfect pessimist.
I try my best to give satisfaction.
That will be all, Lane.
Thank you, sir.
There's a sensible, intellectual girl. The only girl I ever cared for.
What are you so amused at?
I'm just a little anxious about poor Bunbury, that's all.
If you don't take care, your friend Bunbury will get you into a serious scrape
Oh,
someday.
but I love scrapes. They're the only thing that are never serious.
Oh, Algie, that is nonsense. You never talk anything but nonsense.
Nobody ever does. Lane,
Yes, sir.
take my glass. Nobody ever does.
Cecily, surely such a utilitarian occupation of the watering of flowers is rather Moulton's duty than yours, especially at a moment when intellectual pleasures await you. Your German grammar is on the table. Pray open it to page 15. We will repeat yesterday's lesson.
I don't like German. It isn't at all a becoming language. I know I look perfectly plain after my German lesson.
Child, you know how anxious your guardian is that you should improve yourself in every way. He laid particular stress on your German as he was leaving for town yesterday.
Dear Uncle Jack is so very serious. Sometimes he's so serious, I do not think he can be quite calm.
Your guardian enjoys the best of health. His gravity of demeanour is something to be so commended as someone so comparatively young as he is. You know no one with a higher sense of duty and responsibility. You must remember his constant anxiety about the young unfortunate man, his brother.
Oh, I wish Uncle Jack would allow that unfortunate young man, his brother, to come down here sometimes. We might have a good influence over him, Miss Prism.
I do not think that I could produce it of character on a fact of his own brother's admission is irretrievably weak and vacillating. I'm not in favour of this modern mania of turning good people into bad people at a moment's notice. As a man sows, so shall he reap. Cecily, you must put away your diary. I don't understand why you need to keep a diary at all.
I keep a diary in order to enter the wonderful secrets of my life. If I didn't write them down, I should probably forget all about them.
Memory, my dear Cecily, is the diary we carry round with us.
Yes, I suppose memory is responsible for nearly all the 3-volume novels that Moody sends us.
Do not speak slightingly of the 3-volume novel, Cecily. I wrote one myself in earlier days.
Really, Miss Prism? How wonderfully clever you are! I hope it did not end happily. I don't like novels that end happily. They depress me so much.
The good ended happily, and the bad unhappily. That's what fiction
I
means.
suppose so, but it seems very unfair. And was your novel ever published?
Alas, no. The manuscript was unfortunately abandoned. I use the word lost, Miss Lee.
I see Dr. Chasuble coming up through the garden.
Dr. Chasuble, this is indeed a pleasure.
And how are we, Miss Prism? You are indeed well?
Miss Prism has just been complaining of a slight headache.
Cecily, I've not mentioned anything about a headache.
No, Miss Prism, you haven't, but I felt instinctively that you had a headache. I think it would do us so much good to have a short stroll with you in the park, Dr. Chasuble.
I hope, Cecily, you are not inattentive.
Oh, I'm afraid I am.
That is strange. Were I fortunate enough to be Miss Prism's pupil, I would surely hang upon her lips. I speak metaphorically. The metaphor was drawn from these. Mr. Worthing, I suppose, has not returned from town yet?
We do not look for him till Monday afternoon.
Ah, yes. He is not whose sole aim is enjoyment, as by all accounts, that unfortunate young man his brother seems to be. However, I will not disturb Egeria and her pupil any longer.
Egeria, my name's Letitia, Doctor.
A classical illusion, nearly. I shall see you both, no doubt, at evensong.
I think, dear Doctor, I do have a headache after all, and a walk might do it good.
With pleasure, Miss Prism. With pleasure. You might go as far as the schools and back.
That would be delightful. Cecily, you will read the chapter on the fall of economy. The chapter on the fall of rupee is somewhat too sensational.
Horrid political economy, horrid geography, horrid German.
Mr. Ernest Worthing has just driven over from the station. He has brought his luggage with him.
Uncle Jack's brother. Did you tell him Mr. Worthing was in town?
Yes, miss. I mentioned that you and Miss Prism were in the garden. He said he was anxious to speak to you privately for a moment.
Send Mr. Ernest Worthing out here. I suppose you'd better talk to the housekeeper about a room for him.
Yes, miss.
I've never met any really wicked person before. I feel rather frightened. I am so afraid he'll look just like everybody else. He does.
You are my little cousin Cecily, I am sure.
You must be under some strange mistake. I am not little. In fact, I'm more than usually tall for my age. But I am your cousin Cecily. You are Uncle Jack's brother, my cousin Ernest, my wicked cousin Ernest.
Oh, Cecily, I am not wicked. You mustn't think that I am wicked.
Well, if you're not wicked, then you've certainly been deceiving us all in a very inexcusable manner. I hope that you have not been leading a double life, pretending to be wicked and being really good all the time. That would be hypocrisy.
Oh, I suppose I have been rather reckless.
I'm glad to hear it.
In fact, now that you mention the subject, I have been very bad in my own small way.
I don't think you should be so proud of that, although it must have been very pleasant.
It is much pleasanter being here with you.
I can't understand how you're here at all. Uncle Jack won't be back until Monday afternoon.
I know it is terribly disappointing, but I'm obliged to go out by the first train Monday morning. I have a business appointment. I am anxious to miss.
Couldn't you miss it anywhere but in London?
No, the appointment is in London.
Oh, well, I know how important it is not to keep a business engagement if one wishes to retain any sense of the beauty of life, but I still think you should wait till Uncle Jack gets here. I know he wants to talk to you about your emigrating.
About my what?
Your emigrating. He's gone up to buy your outfit.
Oh, I would not let Jack choose my outfit. He has no taste in neckties at all.
Oh, well, I don't think you're going to be requiring neckties. Uncle Jack is sending you to Australia.
Australia? I'd sooner die.
Well, he said at dinner on Wednesday night that you would have to choose between this world, the next world, and Australia.
Well, the reports I've heard of the next world and Australia are not particularly encouraging. This world is good enough for me, cousin Cecily.
Yes, but are you good enough for it?
I'm afraid I am not that. That is why I wish you may reform me. You may make it your mission if you don't mind, cousin Cecily.
Well, I'm afraid I've no time this afternoon.
Well, would you mind my reforming myself this afternoon?
It's very quixotic of you, but I think you should try.
I will. I feel better already.
You're looking a little worse.
Oh, that is because I am hungry.
Of course, how foolish of me. I forgot that when one is going to lead an entirely new life, one requires regular and wholesome meals. Won't you come in?
Thank you, but might I have a buttonhole first? I never have any appetite unless I have a buttonhole first.
Marquis meal?
No, I'd sooner have a pink rose.
There's no pink roses, there's white roses though.
White rose.
Why?
Because you are like a rose, cousin Cecily.
I don't think that you should talk to me like that. Miss Prism never says such things to me.
Well, Miss Prism is a short-sighted old lady. You are the prettiest girl I have ever seen.
Miss Prism says that all good looks are a snare.
They are a snare that any sensible man would like to find himself caught in.
Oh, I don't think I would care to catch a sensible man. I wouldn't know what to talk with him about.
You were too much alone, dear Dr. Chasuble. A misanthrope, I can understand. A womanthrope, never.
Believe me, I do not deserve such a neologistic phrase. The precept as well as the practice of primitive church was distinctly against matrimony.
It was obviously the reason why the primitive church has not lasted into the present day. You do not realise, dear Dr. Chasuble, that by persistently remaining single, a man converts himself to permanent public temptation. Men should be more careful. This very celibacy leaves weaker vessels astray.
But is a man not equally attractive when married?
No man is ever attractive except to his wife.
And often I've been told, not even to her.
That depends on the intellectual sympathies of the woman. Maturity can be depended on. Ripeness can be trusted. Young women are green. I speak horticulturally. My metaphor was drawn from fruits. Where is Cecily?
Perhaps she followed us to the schools?
Mr. Worthy!
Mr. Worthing?
This is indeed a surprise. We did not look for you till Monday afternoon.
Yes, I have returned sooner than expected. You are well, Dr. Chasuble?
Mr. Worthing, I trust this garb of woe does not betoken some terrible calamity.
My brother.
More shameful debts and extravagance.
Still leading his life of pleasure?
Dead.
Your brother Ernest? Dead?
Quite dead.
What a lesson for him. I trust he will profit by it.
Yes.
You have my deepest condolences. You at least have the consolation of knowing you were always the generous and forgiving of her.
Yes. Ernest had many faults, but it is a sad blow.
Very sad indeed. Were you with him at the end?
No, he died abroad, in Paris. I had a telegram from the manager of the Grand Hotel.
Was the cause of death mentioned?
Severe chill, it seems.
As a man sows, so shall he reap.
Charity, Miss Prism, charity. None of us are perfect. I myself am particularly susceptible to drafts. Will the intimate take place here?
No, he seems to have expressed desire to be buried abroad, in Paris.
In Paris? I fear that hardly points to any very serious state of mind at the last. You would no doubt wish me to make some slight allusion on this tragic domestic affliction next Sunday. I have preached it at harvest celebrations, christenings on days of worship and days of humiliation.
You mentioned christenings, I think. I suppose you know how to christen, all right? I mean, you are continually christening, are you not?
But is there any infant in whom you are interested, Mr. Worthing? Your brother was, I believe, unmarried? Was he not?
Oh, yes.
People who live entirely for pleasure usually are.
But no, it is not for any infant. No, you see, I would like to be christened myself this afternoon, if you have nothing better to do.
But surely, Mr. Worthing, you have been christened already.
Oh, I don't remember anything about it.
But have you any grave doubts on the subject?
I certainly intend to have. Oh, although I don't know if the thing will bother you at all, or if you think I'm a little too old.
Not at all. The sprinkling and indeed the immersion of adults is a perfectly canonical practice.
Immersion?
Sprinkling is all that I advise needed. Our weather is so changeable. At what time would you wish the ceremony be performed?
I might trot round at about 5, if that suits.
Perfectly, perfectly. I have 2 similar ceremonies to perform at that time.
Oh, I don't quite much like the idea of being christened with other children. I think that's a bit childish. Would 5:30 do?
Admirably, admirably. And now, Mr. Worthing, I will not intrude any longer into a house of sorrow. I would merely beg you not to be beaten down too much by grief. What seem to us bitter trials are often blessings in disguise.
Seems to be a blessing of an extremely obvious kind. Uncle Jack! Oh, I am glad you're back, but what horrid clothes you've got on. Do go and change them. Cecily!
My child,
What's the matter, Uncle Jack? Do you look happy? You look as if you had a toothache, and I have such a surprise for you. Guess who's in the dining room? Your brother.
What?
Your brother Ernest. He arrived about a half hour ago.
What nonsense. I haven't got a brother.
Oh, don't say that. However wickedly he may have behaved to you in the past, he is still your brother. I'll go and fetch him out, and you will shake hands with him, won't you, Uncle Jack? After we'd all been resigned to his loss, his sudden return seems particularly distressing.
My brother Ernest is in the dining room. What can it all mean? Oh, I think it is perfectly absurd. Oh, good heavens.
in the future.
Uncle Jack, surely you're not going to refuse your own brother's hand?
Nothing will induce me to take his hand. I think his behaviour is immoral, and he knows perfectly well why.
Oh, Uncle Jack, do be nice. There is some good in everyone. Ernest has been telling me all about his poor friend Bunbury, an invalid whom he visits so often. And surely there is much kindness in one who is kind to an invalid and foregoes the pleasures of life to sit by a bedside of pain.
He has been telling you about Bunbury, has he?
Yes, he's been telling me all about poor Mr. Bunbury and his terrible state of health.
Well, I won't have him talk to you about Bunbury. It is enough to drive one perfectly frantic.
I will admit that all of the faults were on my side, but I find that Brother John's coldness towards me peculiarly painful. I expected him to be more welcoming, especially considering it's the first time I have come here.
Uncle Jack, if you do not shake hands with Ernest, I will never forgive you.
Never forgive me?
Never, never, never.
This is the last time I shall ever do it.
It is pleasant, is it
What?
not, to see so perfect a reconciliation? I think we might leave the two brothers together.
Cecily, you will come with us. Certainly, Miss Prism. My little task of reconciliation is over.
You have done beautiful action today, teacher.
We must not be premature in our judgments. I feel very happy.
Oh, you young scoundrel, Algie! You've got to get out of here! I don't allow Bunbury here! Oh.
I've put Mr. Ernest's things in the room next to yours, sir. I suppose that's all right.
What?
Mr. Ernest's luggage, sir. I've unpacked it and placed it in the room next to your own.
His luggage.
Yes, sir. 3 portmanteaus, a dressing case, 2 hat boxes, and a large luncheon basket.
I'm afraid I can't stay more than a week. This time.
Merriman, fetch the dog cart at once. Mr. Ernest has been suddenly called back to town.
Yes, sir.
What a fearful lie you are, Jack. I haven't been called back to town at all.
Yes, you have.
I've not heard anyone call me.
Your duty as a gentleman calls you back.
My duty as a gentleman has never interfered with my pleasures to the smallest degree.
Well, I can quite understand that.
Well, Cecily is a darling.
You are not to talk of Miss Cardew like that. I don't like it.
Well, I don't like your clothes. You look perfectly ridiculous in them. It's very childish to be in deep mourning for a man who is really staying as a guest in your house for more than a week.
You are not staying as a guest in my house for more than a week, or as anything else. You have got to leave by the 4:05 train.
But I can't leave you so long as you are in mourning. That would be so unfriendly. You would stay with me if I was in mourning. I would think it very unkind if you did not.
Well, will you go if I change my clothes?
Yes, if you are not too long. I've never seen someone take so long to dress with such little result.
Well, it is better than being always overdressed as you are.
If I am occasionally overdressed, I make up for it by being always immensely overeducated.
Your vanity is ridiculous. Your conduct an outrage, and your presence in my garden is utterly absurd. Although, I do hope you have a pleasant journey back to town. This Bunburying, as you call it, has not been a great success for you.
I think it has been a great success. I am in love with Cecily, and that is everything. And I really should go and see her and organise another Bunbury. Oh, there's she.
Oh, I merely came back to water the roses. I thought you were with Uncle Jack.
He's gone to order the dog cart for me.
Oh, is he going to send you for a nice drive?
He's going to send me away.
But have we got to part?
I'm afraid so. It is a very painful parting.
Always very painful parting from one whom one has only just become acquainted with. The absence of great friends one can endure with dignity, but even a momentary absence from anyone whom one has only just become acquainted with is extremely distressing.
Thank you.
The dog cart is at the door, sir. It can wait, Merriman. For 5 minutes. Yes, miss.
Cecily, I hope that I do not insult you if I state quite frankly and candidly that you seem to me to be the personification of absolute perfection.
I think your frankness does you great credit, Ernest. If you may, I will now copy your remarks into my diary.
Do you really keep a diary? I would give anything to look at it. May I?
Oh, no. You see, it's very simply a young girl's thoughts and recollections of her own opinions, and is subsequently meant for publication. When it appears in volume form, I hope you will order a copy. But go on, Ernest. I delight in taking down from dictation. I have reached absolute perfection. Go on, I'm quite ready.
Oh,
Oh,
passionately, devotedly, hopelessly.
I don't think you should tell me that you love me wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly. It doesn't make sense, does it? Besides, Uncle Jack would be very much annoyed.
Oh, I don't care about Jack. I don't care about anyone in the world but you. I love you, Cecily. You will marry me, won't you?
Dear romantic boy, of course! Oh, you must not laugh at me, darling. It's always been a girlish dream of mine to marry a man by the name of Ernest. There's something in that name that inspires absolute confidence. I pity any poor married woman whose husband is not called Ernest.
Cecily, do you mean to tell me you could not love me if my name was not Ernest?
But what other name would you be besides Ernest?
Any name you like. Algernon, for instance, or Paul.
Oh, but I don't like the name of Paul or Algernon.
But I don't see why you would object to the name of Algernon. It is quite an aristocratic name. More than half the chaps that end up at the bankruptcy court are called Algernon. But on a more serious note, Cecily, if my name was not Algie, couldn't you love me?
I might respect you, Ernest. I might admire your character, but I fear that I could not give you my full undivided attention.
Cecily, your rector here, I believe, is well traversed in the ceremonials of the church.
Oh yes, Dr. Chasuble's the most well-learned man. He's never read a single book, so you can imagine how much he knows.
I must see him on a most important christening. I mean, most important business.
Oh.
I shan't be more than half an hour.
Seeing as we've only just become engaged, and I only met you today, I think it's rather cruel of you to leave me so long as a period as half an hour.
I shall be back in no time.
Oh, couldn't you make it 20 minutes?
I'll be back in no time.
What a funny romantic boy he is. I like his hair so much. Oh, I must enter his proposal into my diary. Miss Fairfax has just called to see Mr. Worthing. Miss Fairfax has just called to see Mr. Worthing. Isn't Mr. Worthing in his library? Mr. Worthing went in the direction of the rectory some time ago. Pray invite the lady out here, and you can bring tea. Yes, miss. Miss Fairfax? No doubt one of the old women that Uncle Jack works with in his philanthropic work. I don't much like women who do philanthropic work. I think it's so very forward of them. Miss Fairfax. Miss Fairfax, pray allow me to introduce myself. My name is Cecily Cardew.
Cecily Cardew. What a very sweet name. I like you already more than I can say. Something tells me we're going to be great friends. My first impressions of people are never wrong.
How nice of you to like me so much after we've known each other for such a comparatively short time. Pray sit down.
I may call you Cecily, may I not?
With pleasure,
And you always call me Gwendolen, more than you.
if you like.
Well, then, it's all quite settled then.
I hope so.
I suppose now might be a good time of me mentioning who I am. My father is Lord Bracknell. Never heard of Papa, I suppose.
No, I don't think so.
Well, I'm glad to say Papa, outside of his social sphere, is entirely unknown. To me, the home seems to me to be the proper sphere for the man. And once a man begins to neglect his domestic duties, it becomes painfully effeminate, does it not? And I don't like that. It makes men so painfully attractive. Say, do you mind me looking you through my goggles?
Oh, not at all, Gwendolen. I'm very fond of being looked at.
You're here on a short visit, I suppose.
Oh, no, I live here.
Really? Your mother, or some female relative of advanced age, resides here also?
Oh, no, I have no mother, nor in fact any relations.
Indeed.
My dear guardian, with the assistance of Miss Prism, has the arduous task of looking after me.
Your guardian?
Yes, I'm Mr. Worthing's ward.
Oh! Strange to me how he never even mentioned it here to Ward. How secretive of him. Though I'm not sure if the news inspires me with feelings of mixed delight. Cecily, I have liked you ever since I met you, okay? But now that I know that you are Mr. Worthing's ward, I feel bound to state you are just a little older than you seem to be. In fact, if I may speak candidly.
Oh, pray do. I think that whenever one has anything unpleasant to say, one should always be quite candid.
Well, to speak with perfect candor, I wish that you were fully 42, and more than usually plain for your age. Ernest has a strong, upright nature. He's very soul of truth and honor. His loyalty was being impossible to him as deception.
I beg your pardon, Gwendolen. Did you say Ernest?
Yes?
Oh, but it is not Ernest Worthing who is my guardian. It's his brother, his elder brother.
Ernest never mentioned me to he had a brother.
I'm afraid they've been on bad
mention it. I don't think I've seen any man mention their brother. The subject doesn't seem tasteful to most men. Cecily, you've lifted a load off my mind. It would have been horrible if a grey cloud came over a friendship like ours, would it not? Though you are quite sure it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is your guardian.
Quite sure. In fact, I'm going to be his.
I beg your pardon?
Dearest Gwendolen, there is no need for me to make it a secret of you. Our little country newspaper is sure to chronicle the fact next week. Ernest Worthing and I are engaged to be married.
My darling Cecily, I fear there must be some slight error. Mr. Ernest Worthing is engaged to me. The fact will be mentioned later in the Morning Post.
You are under some strange mistake. Ernest proposed to me exactly 10 minutes ago.
It's very strange, for he asked me to be his wife yesterday afternoon. If you would care to verify the incident, pray you do so. I never travel without my diary. One should always have something sensational to read on the train. I'm afraid, Cecily, that I have the prior claim.
It would distress me more than I can say, Mr. Fairfax, if it would cause you any mental or physical anguish, but it seems to me that since Ernest proposed to you, he's clearly changed his mind.
Well, the poor boy has been entrapped into some foolish promise. I shall make it my duty to rescue him at once, and with a firm hand.
Whatever entanglement my dear boy may have gotten into, I will never approach him with it after we're married.
Do you allude to me, Miss Cardew, as an entanglement? You are presumptuous. In times like these, it becomes more than a moral duty to speak one's mind. It becomes a pleasure.
Do you accuse me, Miss Fairfax, of entrapping Ernest? How dare you! This is no time for the shallow mask of manners. When I see a spade, I call it a spade.
I am glad to say I have never seen a spade. It is obvious that our social spheres have been widely different.
What?
Shall I lay tea here as usual, miss?
Yes, as usual.
Any interesting walks in the vicinity, Miss Cardew?
Oh, yes. From the top of one hill, quite close from here, one can see 5 counties.
5 counties. I don't suppose I like that. I hate crowds.
I suppose that's why you live in town?
Quite a well-kept garden this is, Miss Cardew.
So glad you like it, Miss Fairfax.
I had no idea there were this many flowers in the country.
Oh, flowers are as common here, Miss Fairfax, as people are in London.
Personally, I don't see how anyone who is anyone lives in the country. The country always bores me to death.
Yes. This is what the newspapers are calling agricultural depression, is it not? I believe the aristocracy are suffering from it at present. It's almost an epidemic among them, I've been told. May I offer you some tea, Miss Fairfax?
Thank you, detestable girl. I require tea.
Sugar?
No, but thank you. But sugar is not fashionable anymore.
Cake or bread and butter?
Bread and butter. Cake is rarely seen at the best houses nowadays.
Eva.
You have filled my tea with lumps of sugar. And though I most distinctly asked for bread and butter, you've given me cake. I am known for the gentleness of my disposition and the extraordinary sweetness of my nature, but I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
Save my poor any other girl, there are no lengths to which I would not go.
From the moment I saw you, I distrusted you. I felt that you were false and deceitful. I am never deceived in such manners. My first impressions of people are invariably right.
Seems to me, Miss Fairfax, that I'm trespassing on your valuable time. No doubt you have many other calls of a similar character to make in the neighborhood.
Oh, you want to... Ernest! My own Ernest.
Gwendolen!
A moment. May I ask if you're engaged to be married to this young lady?
To dear little Cecily? Why, of course not. What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Oh, thank you.
I knew there must be some misunderstanding, Miss Fairfax. The gentleman whose arm is at present round your waist is my guardian, Mr. John Worthing. This is Uncle Jack.
Jack! Ugh!
Here is Ernest.
My own love.
No kissing.
A moment, Ernest. May I ask if you're engaged to be married to this young lady?
To which young lady? Good heavens, Gwendolen!
Yes, to good heavens, Gwendolen! I mean to Gwendolen.
No, of course not. What could put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you, you may.
I felt there was some slight error, Miss Cardew. The gentleman who is now embracing you is my cousin, Mr. Algernon Moncrieff.
Algernon Moncrieff? Oh! Is your name really Algernon?
I cannot deny it.
And is your name really John?
I could deny it if I liked. I could deny anything if I liked. But my name is certainly John. It has been John for years.
Gross deception has been practiced upon both of us.
My poor wounded Cecily.
My sweet wronged Gwendolen.
You will call me sister, will you not?
There is just one question I would like to be permitted to ask my guardian.
An admirable idea, Mr. Worthing. There is just one question I would like to be permitted to put to you. Where is your brother Ernest? See, we are both engaged to be married to your brother Ernest, so it's a matter of some importance to us to know where your brother Ernest is at present.
Gwendolen, Cecily. It is very painful for me to be forced to speak the truth, but here it is. It is the first time I've ever been put in such a painful position, but I have to tell you quite frankly that I have no brother Ernest. I have never had a brother, and I have no intention of having one, not even of any kind, in the future.
No brother at all?
No, not at all.
Had you never a brother of any kind?
Not even of any kind.
Well, I'm afraid it's quite clear, Cecily, that neither of us is engaged to be married to anyone.
Yes, it's not a very pleasant position for a young girl to suddenly find herself in, is it?
Let us go into the house. They shall hardly come to venture after us there.
Yes, men are so cowardly, aren't they?
Ooh, this ghastly state of affairs is what you call bunburying, I suppose.
Yes, and what a wonderful bunbury it is. The finest bunbury I've ever had in my life.
Well, you have no right whatsoever to bunbury here.
That is absurd. Anywhere has the right to bunbury. Anywhere one chooses. Any serious bunburyist knows it.
Serious bunburyist. Good heavens. What?
Well, one must be serious about something if one is to have any amusement in life. I happen to be serious about bunburying. Whatever it is you are serious about, I have the remotest idea. About anything. I should fancy you, Jack, have a trivial nature.
Well, the only small satisfaction I can get out of this whole wretched business is your friend Bunbury is quite exploded. You won't be able to venture down to the country so often as you like, Algie, and not a bad thing either.
Your brother is a little off colour, isn't he, dear Jack? You won't be able to disappear off to London as much as your wicked custom was, and not a bad thing either.
As for your conduct towards Miss Cardew, I think that you're taking in a sweet, innocent girl like that is quite inexcusable, not to mention the fact that she's my ward.
I can see no possible defence for your deceiving a brilliant, clever, thoroughly experienced young lady like Miss Fairfax, so not to mention that she is my cousin.
I wish to be engaged to Gwendolen, that is all. I love her.
I wish to be engaged to Cecily. I adore her.
There is simply no chance of your marrying Miss Cardew.
I see no likelihood, Jack, of you and Miss Fairfax being united.
Well, it's no business of yours.
If it was my business, I wouldn't talk about it. It's very bothersome to talk about one's business. People like stockbrokers do that. I'm only ever at dinner parties.
How can you sit there so calmly, eating muffins, when we are in this horrible trouble? I can't make out. You seem to be perfectly heartless.
Well, I can't eat muffins in an agitated manner. The butter would probably get on my cuffs. One should always eat muffins quite calmly. It is the only way to eat them.
I say it's perfectly heartless you're eating muffins at all, under the circumstances.
When I am in trouble, perfectly heartless to eat muffins.
No, I said it was perfectly heartless of you. Under the circumstances, that's a different thing.
Okay, but the muffins are the same. Ruinous.
Algie, I wish you would go. I've told you to go. Why won't you go?
I cannot possibly go without having any dinner. I never go without my dinner. Only people like vegetarians do that. Besides, I have just made arrangements with Dr. Chasuble to be christened at 6:15 under the name of Ernest.
Oh, my dear fellow, the sooner you give up that nonsense, the better. You see, I have already made arrangements with Dr. Chasuble to be christened at 5:30 under the name of Ernest. Gwendolen would wish it. We can't both be christened Ernest. It's absurd. Besides, I have every right to be christened if I like. There is no evidence at all that I ever was christened, and I think it highly likely that I never was. So does Dr. Chasuble. It is entirely different in your case, however. You have been christened already.
Yes, but I have not been christened for years.
Yes, but you have been christened. That's the important thing.
If you think it highly unlikely you're ever having been christened, I dare say it's rather dangerous you're venturing on it now. It might make you very unwell. You can hardly have forgotten that someone very closely connected with you was very nearly carried off in Paris last week with a severe chill.
Yes, but you said so yourself. Severe chill is not hereditary.
It used to be, I know, but I dare say it is now. Science is always making wonderful improvements in things.
Oh, that is nonsense. Algie, you're always talking nonsense.
Jack, you are at the muffins again. I wish you wouldn't. There's only 2 left. I told you I am Oh, my hat. You have really done it now, boy. I told you I am fond of muffins.
Algie, I wish to goodness you would go. Why won't you go? Look, there's the door. Go.
What ideas you have of hospitality, Jack. I could not leave. Because there is still tea left. And 1 more muffin.
The fact that they did not follow us at once into the house, as anyone else would have done, seems to me to show that they have some sense of shame left.
They are eating muffins. That looks like repentance.
They don't seem to notice us at all. Couldn't you cough?
I haven't got a cough.
They're looking at us. What effrontery.
They're approaching. That's very forward of them.
Let us preserve a dignified silence.
Certainly, it's the only thing to do now.
This dignified silence seems to be producing an unpleasant effect.
The most distasteful one.
Will you not be the first to speak?
Certainly not.
Mr. Worthing! I have something very particular to ask you. Much depends on your reply.
Gwendolen, your common sense is invaluable. Mr. Moncrieff, allow me to ask you just one question. Why did you pretend to be my guardian's brother?
So that I may have the opportunity of meeting you.
That seems like a sensible reply, does it not?
Yes, dear, if you can believe it.
I don't. But it does not affect the wonderful beauty of his answer.
True. Yeah. In matters of great importance, style, not sincerity, is the important thing. Mr. Worthing! What explanation could you possibly offer to me as for pretending to have a brother? Also, in order you could sneak up in town in order to see me as often as possible?
Can you doubt it, Miss Fairfax?
I have the gravest doubts on the subject, but I intend to crush them. This is not the moment for German skepticism. No explanations are really quite satisfactory, especially Mr. Worthing's. That one has a very stamp of truth and honor upon it.
I am more than content with what voice alone inspires one with absolute credulity.
Then you think we should forgive them?
Yes. I mean, no.
True. I forgot there are principles at stake that one cannot surrender. Which one of us should tell? The task is not a pleasant one.
Oh, could we not both speak at the same time?
I love speaking at the same time as other people. Will you take the time for me?
Certainly.
Your Christian names are still an insuperable barrier. That is all.
Our Christian names? Is that all? But we are going to be christened this afternoon.
For my sake, you are prepared to do this terrible thing?
I am.
To please me, you're going to go through this fearful ordeal?
I am.
How absurd to talk of the equality of the sexes, where questions of self-sacrifice are concerned. Men are infinitely beyond us.
We are.
They have moments of courage and worthiness that are about which us women know nothing of.
Darling.
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 Darling!
Oh,
Ahem! Ahem! Lady Bracknell!
Oh. Gwendolen! What does this mean?
Merely that I am engaged to be married to Mr. Webby, Mama.
Come here. Sit down. Sit down immediately! Hesitation of any kind is a sign of mental decay. Apprised, sir, of my daughter's sudden flight by her trusty maid, whose confidence I purchased by means of a small coin. I followed her at once by a luggage train. Her unhappy father is, I am glad to say, under the impression that she is attending a more than usually lengthy lecture by the university. I do not propose to undeceive him. I will consider it wrong, but, of course, you will clearly understand that all communication between yourself and my daughter must cease immediately. On this point, and on all points, I am firm.
But I'm engaged to be married, Lady Bracknell, to your daughter.
You are nothing of the kind. And as regards Algernon!
Yes, Aunt Augusta.
May I ask if it is in this house that your invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury, resides?
Bunbury? Bunbury is not here at present. Bunbury is somewhere else. Bunbury is dead.
Dead?
Yes.
When did Mr. Bunbury die? His death must have been extremely sudden.
I killed Bunbury this afternoon. I don't know this afternoon.
What did he die of?
Bunbury? He was quite exploded.
Exploded? Was he the victim of a revolutionary outrage? I was not aware that Mr. Bunbury was interested in social legislation. If so, he is well punished for his morbidity.
Aunt Augusta, he was found out. The doctors found out he could not live, and so Bunbury died.
He seems to have great confidence in the opinion of his physicians. I am glad, however, that he made up his mind at the last to some definite course of action and acted under proper medical advice. And now that we have finally got rid of this Mr. Bunbury, may I ask, Mr. Worthing?
Yes.
Who is that young person whom my nephew Algernon was acting toward in a peculiarly unnecessary manner?
That lady is Miss Cecily Cardew, my ward.
I am engaged to be married to Cecily, Aunt Augusta.
I beg your pardon?
Mr. Moncrieff and I are engaged to be wed, Lady Bracknell.
Me? I do not know whether there is anything peculiarly exciting in the air of this peculiar part of Hertfordshire, but the number of engagements that go on seems to me considerably above the proper average that statistics have laid down for our guidance. I think some preliminary inquiry of my part would not be out of place. Mr. Worthy, is Miss Cardew at all connected with any of the larger railway stations in London? I merely desire information. Until yesterday, I had no idea that there were any families or persons whose origin were
Cambridgeshire, NB.
That sounds not unsatisfactory.
I also have in my possession, you will be pleased to hear, Lady Bracknell, certificates of Miss Cardew's birth, baptism, registration, vaccination, confirmation, and measles, both the German and English varieties.
Ah, a life crowded with incident. I see, though perhaps somewhat too exciting for a young girl. I am not myself in favour of premature experiences. Gwendolen, the time approaches for our departure. We have not a moment to lose. As a matter of fact, Mr. Worthing, I had better ask you if Miss Cardew has any little fortune.
Oh, about £130,000, and in the funds. Oh, so pleased to have seen you, Lady Bracknell. Thank you for coming.
A moment, Mr. Worthing. £130,000, and in the funds. Miss Cardew seems to me the most attractive young lady now that I look at her. Few girls of the present day have any really solid qualities. Any of the qualities that last and improve with time. We live, I regret to say, in an age of surfaces. Come here, dear. Pretty child. Your dress is sadly simple, and your hair seems almost as nature might have left it. But we can soon alter all that. A thoroughly experienced French maid produces a really marvellous result in a very brief space of time. I remember recommending one to a young lady Lansing, and after 3 months her own husband did not know her.
And after 6 months, nobody knew her.
Kindly turn around, sweet child. Yes, quite as I expected. Okay. There are distinct social possibilities in your profile. The two weak points in our age are its wants of principle and its wants of profile. The chin a little higher, dear. Style largely depends on the way the chin is worn. They are worn very high, just at present. Algernon!
Yes, Aunt Augusta.
There are distinct social possibilities in Miss Cardew's profile.
Cecily is the sweetest, prettiest, dearest girl in the whole world, and I really don't care 2 pence about social possibilities.
Never speak disrespectfully of society, Algernon. Only people who can't get into it do that. Dear child, of course you know that Algernon has nothing but his debts to depend on. But I do not approve of mercenary marriages. When I married Lord Bracknell, I had no fortune of any kind, but I never dreamed for a moment of allowing that to stand in my way. Well, I suppose I must give my consent.
Oh, thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell.
You may kiss me.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell.
You may also address me as Aunt Augusta for the future.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
The marriage, I think, had better take place quite soon.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
To speak frankly, I am not in favour of long engagements. They give people the opportunity of finding out each other's character before marriage, which I think is never advisable.
Pardon, Lady Bracknell, for interrupting you, but you see, this engagement is quite out of the question because, as Miss Cardew's guardian, she cannot marry without my consent until she comes of age. That consent I absolutely decline to give.
Upon what grounds, may I ask? Algernon is an extremely, I may also say, an ostentatiously eligible young man. He has nothing, but he looks everything, which I think, but he looks everything, which more can one desire.
Pains me very much now to speak frankly to you, Lady Bracknell, but you see, I don't much approve of his moral character. I suspect him of being untruthful.
Untruthful? My nephew Algernon? Impossible. He's an Oxonian.
I fear there can be no possible doubt about the matter. You see, during my temporary absence this morning to London on an important question of romance, he obtained admission to my house under the false pretense of being my brother. this assumed name, he drank, I've just been informed by my butler, an entire pint bottle of my Perrier Jouet 89 wine. I know that I was specially reserving for myself. Continuing his disgraceful deception, he continued in the course of the afternoon in alienating the affections of my only ward, and subsequently stated tea and devoured every single muffin. I know, and what makes his conduct all the more heartless is he was perfectly well aware that I have no brother, I have never had a brother, and I don't intend on having one, not even of any kind, and I distinctly told him so yesterday afternoon.
Mr. Worthing, after consideration, I have decided entirely to overlook my nephew's conduct to you.
That is very generous of you, Lady Bracknell, but my own decision, however, is unalterable. I decline to give my consent.
Come here, sweet child. How old are you?
Well, I'm really only 18, but I always put to 20 when going to evening parties.
You are perfectly right in making some slight alterations. 18, but admitting to 20 at parties. Well, it will not be very long before you are of age and free from the restraints of tutelage. So,
pray excuse me, Lady Bracknell, for interrupting you again, but you see, Miss Cardew does not legally come of age until she is 35.
Algie, could you wait for me until I was 35?
Of course I could, Cecily. You know I could.
Yes, I felt it instinctively, but I don't think I could. I hate waiting even 5 minutes for anybody.
Well, then what is to be done, Cecily?
I don't know, Mr. Moncrieff.
Oh,
my dear Mr. Worthing, as Miss Cardew states positively that she cannot wait till she is 35, a remark which I am bound to say seems to me to show a somewhat impatient nature. I would beg of you to reconsider your decision.
But the matter is entirely in your own hands, Lady Bracknell. You see, as soon as you consent to my marriage with Gwendolen, I will be more than likely to allow your nephew to form an alliance with my ward.
You must be quite aware that what I propose is out of the question.
Well, a passionate celibacy is all any of us have to look forward to.
That is not the destiny I propose for Gwendolen. Algernon, of course, can choose for himself. Come, dear. We have already missed 5, if not 6 trains. To miss any more might expose us to the comment on the platform.
Everything is quite ready for the christening.
Ooh. The christening, sir? Is that not somewhat premature?
Both these gentlemen have expressed a desire for immediate baptism.
At their age, the idea is grotesque and irreligious. Algernon, I forbid you to be baptized. I will not hear of such excess. Lord Bracknell would be highly displeased if he learned that that was the way in which you wasted your time and your money.
Am I to understand there will be no christenings at all this afternoon?
I don't think that, as things are now, it would be of any practical value to either of us, Dr. Chasuble.
I'm grieved to hear such sentiments from you, Mr. Worthing. However, I will return to the church. Indeed, I have just been informed by the pew opener that for the past hour and a half, Miss Prism has been waiting for me in the vestry.
Miss Prism? Did I hear you mention a Miss Prism?
Yes, Lady Bracknell. I am on my way to join her.
Pray, allow me to detain you for a moment. This matter may prove to be one of vital importance to Lord Bracknell and myself. Is this Miss Prism a female of repellent access, remotely connected with education?
She is the most cultivated of ladies, the very picture of respectability.
It is obviously the same person. May I ask what position she holds in your household?
I am a celibate, madam.
Miss Prism, Lady Bracknell, has been for the last few years Miss Cardew's governess and esteemed companion.
In spite of what I hear of her, I must see her at once. Let her be sent for.
She approaches. She is nigh.
I was told you expected me in the vestry, dear Canon. I've been waiting there for an hour and 3/4.
Prism! Come here, Prism. Prism, of a male sex. You never returned. A few weeks later, through the elaborate investigations of the Metropolitan Police, the perambulator was discovered at midnight, standing by itself in a remote corner of Bayswater. It contained the manuscript of a 3-volume novel of more than usual revolting sentimentality. But the baby was not dead. Prism. Where is that baby?
Lady Bracknell, I admit with shame that I do not know. Only I wish I did. The plain facts of the case are these. On the morning of the day that you mention, which is a day forever branded on my memory, I prepared to take the baby out in its perambulator, and I had with me a somewhat old but capacious handbag, in which I intended to place the volume of a 3-manuscript novel, but at a moment of mental abstraction which I can never forgive myself, I placed the manuscript in the perambulator and the baby in the handbag.
But where did you deposit that?
Ask me, Mr. Worthing.
It is of no small importance to me. I demand to know where you placed the handbag that contained the infant.
In a cloakroom of one of the larger railway stations in London.
Which railway station?
Victoria, the Brighton line.
I must retire to my room for a moment. Gwendolen, wait here for me!
Well, if you're not too long, I'll wait for you all my life.
Is this the handbag? Check carefully before you answer. The happiness of more than one life depends on it.
Yes, here's the injury it received and the stain on the lining, and here are my initials. The bag is undoubtedly mine. I'm so pleased to have it returned to me so unexpectedly.
More is restored to you than the handbag, Miss Prism. I was the baby you placed in it.
You?
Yes. Mother!
Mr. Worthing, am I married?
Oh, I'm married. No doubt. That is a serious blow, but Mother, I forgive you.
Mr. Worthing, there seems to be some serious error. Oh, there is a lady who can tell you who you really are.
Lady Brack, I hate to seem inquisitive, but would you mind telling me who I am?
I'm afraid the answer I have to give you will not altogether please you. You are the son of my poor sister, Mrs. Moncrieff, and, consequently, Algernon's elder brother.
Algy's elder brother? Then I have a brother after all. Cecily, how could you ever have doubted I had a brother? Dr. Chasuble, my unfortunate brother. Miss Prism, my unfortunate brother. Gwendolen, my unfortunate brother. Algy, you will have to behave better to me in the future. You have never behaved to me like a brother at all.
Well, not till today, old boy, but I admit I was out of practice. Oh.
My Own. But what Own are you? What is your Christian name now that you have become someone else?
Oh dear, I've quite forgotten that fact. Your decision on the subject of my name is unalterable, I suppose?
I never change, except in my affections.
What a noble nature you have, Gwendolen.
Right, then the question better be cleared up at once. Aunt Augusta, at the time when I was lost, had I been christened already?
Every luxury that money could buy, including christening, had been lavished on you by your fond and doting parents.
Then I was christened. Now, what name was I given? Let me know the worst.
Being the eldest son, you were naturally christened after your father.
Yes, but what was my father's Christian name?
I cannot at the present moment recall what the general's Christian name was, but I have no doubt he had one. He was eccentric, I admit, but only in later years.
Oh, Algy, can't you recall our father's Christian name?
No, we weren't exactly on speaking terms. He died before I was a year old.
His name would appear in army lists of the period, I suppose. Oh, these books should have been my constant study. Now let's see. Malum, Maxim, Magley, Macaulay. Oh, what ghastly names they have. Moncrieff. Lieutenant General, 1840. Christian names. Ernest John.
Yes, I remember now. The general was called Ernest. I knew I had some particular reason for disliking the name.
Gwendolen, I've always told you my name is Ernest. Oh, well, naturally. It is Ernest.
Ernest, my Own Ernest.
To the chair, my darling.
I say.
Are we better?
Don't look at me like that.
Okay.
My Own Ernest. I felt from the first that you could have no other name.
Gwendolen, it is very strange for a man to suddenly find out that all his life he's been speaking nothing but the truth. Can you
feel that you are sure to change.
At last!
Letitia.
Friedrich.
Cecily, at last!
You seem to be displaying signs of triviality.
On the contrary, Aunt Augusta, I have realized for the first time in my life the vital importance of being earnest.
Oh, I get it.
Child, mother. Yeah, they're cousins. They're cousins. Yeah, they're cousins. Yeah, they're cousins. Yeah, they're all cousins. They're all cousins. Because mother and child and cousins and brothers and therefore cousins.
We're not doing a Q&A.
Yeah.
Take a photo right now.
Unless you want to do a Q&A.
Yes, they are. I knew from the start I was talking about this with the managers pissing me off.
I knew what happened. I like